Today's guest is Tom Verboven, Senior Director at Mercer Talent Enterprise based in Dubai. Tom is a human capital leader who helps organizations turn talent strategy into measurable business impact. His expertise spans executive assessment, succession planning, high potential programs, leadership development, organizational design, and cultural transformation. Having lived and worked across Belgium, the UAE, Lebanon, the UK, and the US, Tom brings a truly international perspective to the changing world of work. In this episode, we're going to explore skills intelligence, the next generation of workforce, and what leaders can do today to build the capabilities their organizations will need tomorrow. Welcome, Tom, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Vanessa.
So with every guest, I love to ask the question of really, how did you end up in the role that you're in today? What path did you take that you're now in Dubai leading in the position that you are in?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I always wanted to become a professional basketball player. And actually, that went well. I was selected like the best player in Belgium for 2 years as a youth player. So I was on a good track, but then unfortunately I had some injuries, ACL knee, which is bad for basketball, and my wrist, which is also bad for basketball because it's your shooting hand. So that part was kind of fading away. So then I thought like, okay, what could be an interesting career path? And I didn't have a clue. The only thing that I knew was I wanted to have an international dimension. I wanted to have the opportunity to travel the world. So then I thought, I want to become a diplomat. Let's study sociology and international relationships. And I don't even know why I never participated for the diplomatic exam. No clue why. But then after university, I started in research as like normally for a PhD. And then I thought, God, this is boring. Just one topic where you have to go so much in depth. It was also very isolated. You have to do the work on your own. There is no team. And as a basketball player, I like the team. I like the team spirit, achieving together, etc. So after 2 years, I was thinking like, okay, that's also not the path I want to have. And then after a while, after a lot of try and testing, someone told me, Tom, but if you go consultancy, then that you can travel the world because you're going to like visit different clients, etc., etc. So that's how I ended up in consultancy, and by accident in HR consultancy, and by accident in assessment and development. And I'm super grateful that I ended up here because it's, I always say it's the greatest job in the world. I don't think my mother still doesn't have a clue what I'm doing. So I always say like I'm having coffee with leaders all over the world. They said, oh, now she's like, okay, that's interesting. She still doesn't know why people would pay me for that. And I said, I can even judge those people after drinking coffee. So it's a really cool job I have. Of course, my colleague will say, Tom, it's not a judgment. It's based off scientific evaluation, etc. But just for the sake of the conversation, I'm traveling the world, having coffee with leaders and judge them. That's my job.
It's a pretty cool description. For leaders that are listening in today, it's obviously a very challenging time. Exciting time, but challenging.
Extremely,
Why should they tune into this episode? What are we going to be sharing over the next half an hour that will help them in their businesses?
It's super important to be surrounded by good people. That makes their life so much easier. So the importance of investing in due diligence, it's like an investment. Like if you buy a company, you do the due diligence, you look at the financial before you decide to acquire a company. You should do the same in surrounding you with strong people. You have to do the strong due diligence before you recruit or select someone for promotion or you select a successor. So it's definitely worth investment into strong due diligence for who you're going to surround yourself with, because that's going to make your life so much easier and much more successful.
Okay, so in this next episode, if I'm a leader listening in, what we're going to cover today is how can we do that effectively, given the fact that there's a lot of constraints over hiring externally. And a lot of leaders are now being told, look internally. So, what are you seeing with companies at the moment that are doing it really well? The companies that are nailing internal talent mobility, they're lowering attrition, they are closing that skills gap. What sets them apart? Is it the personality of the top leader? Is it the strategy of the company? What do you put it down to?
It's a combination, of course. I do think it starts from a clear strategy because that's always the starting point of any assessment we are doing. Because if you have the strategy and you have a clear view on what kind of culture you want to create, what kind of values really matter to you, not just hanging on the wall, but really matters, what kind of culture do you want to, what kind of identity you want as a company. If you have that clear, then it's much more easy to derive like, okay, what are the qualities, the skills we're looking in at our leaders? And then only you can start assessing for those qualities, for those skills. Yeah, so it's more about having that a clear path forward. And then you use it in assessment, in development, in performance management, your consistency measuring the same things. And ideally, and that's why I do see the difference between successful and non-successful, if you zoom in on 4 or 5 skills that are key across all functions, roles, etc. So if, for example, if you want to have a company that is focused on quality, you should have quality all over the place in all of your processes, right? And then sometimes I see these competency frameworks with like 17 competencies, overcomplicated. So it's, I think, clarity of what you want and then clarity and focus on the key skills, competencies you want to assess, develop.
I know questions that come up, not just after our episodes release, but in my other role, when we're talking with companies, we're asking them about the gap, the unknown world that we're in where we know roles are going to evolve to be hybrid. We know some roles will be fully automated. And then trying to track, well, what are the skills that are going to be needed? And in many cases, companies are now realizing that talent acquisition can't be in silo anymore. Talent
Mhm.
acquisition and talent management actually really need to start working together more and more. How do you think that can happen? And are you seeing it happening with the companies you work with?
I can only confirm that there's a lot of isolation, which is such a pity. Like we do, for example, we do an assessment, we write a report, we send it to the leader, we even make an IDP, an individual development plan, then it stops. No, it doesn't go to the L&D department, for example. They don't bring it on all the data that we acquire. It's not transferred to L&D or to any other talent ecosystem. And it's actually not that hard. No? It's just more about the personality of people in bringing that almost the talent ecosystem together. I mean, there's no magic bullet, but it comes down to the people willing to collaborate and look at it from a broad lens, not only assessment, not only L&D, and it goes the other way around, right?
Do you think it's a person block or do you think it's a infrastructure block or a technology block? I've always believed that the greatest asset a company has is the talent. You could have a world class product, but if you don't have incredible talent committed to a vision and feeling part of a culture, it just won't work. What do you think is the blocker to that? Because surely, as a CEO, that's one of the first things you want to look at. Okay, have we got the competitive edge with the product or service? Now, have we the competitive edge talent? And if you don't have all those departments working together and cohesively, surely that's a disadvantage for the business and we're leaking revenue as a result.
So for me, it's talent. It's not the system because it's the talent who built the system. If you have the talent
Yeah.
who are collaborative, they co-create a system that builds that talent ecosystem. That's the starting point. It's not going to be you have a system and then it starts with having the right people, with having that collaborative, co-creative mindset. I think that's very important. Sometimes it's also the different incentives, of course, that coming to people, which is also not helpful for it. So in setting KPIs, in setting the strategy, it's also important that you incentivize the collaborative approach. And again, that comes back to what I just said. If you build the strategy, you build a collaborative culture. If you want to create that, then the leaders you select, the talent you're going to select needs to have that collaborative attitude. No, that's what you select on. That's how you develop people. So
I
it's
know you've worked in so many regions and countries around the world, and I nearly feel like I want to ask this question and then connect it to all the different regions. But if
Yeah.
you could give kind of a global lens on this, what have you seen with organizations that have that vision? They want to put talent first. They want to have that cohesive system and strategy, but they clearly have the wrong leaders in place. What can they do? What do they do?
That's a complex question that I don't have a magic bullet answer to. Because if you have the wrong leaders in place, that's an issue. Is it developed? Can you develop? Yes or no? It should be. So what's wrong? What is missing? I think you need to have a bit of an analysis. What is missing? Right. So if you have a clear view on where you stand right now and what is needed, what are the skills you have, what are the skills you need for the future to be successful, then you can look in how you're going to bridge that gap. And that can be through upskilling, that can be through reskilling, that can be through outskilling, whatever. No, but you have to have a clear view on what you have and what are the future skills needed, and do kind of that mapping to see how you're going to
And
go
do you think
forward.
companies have that clear view right now?
So you do see that you go more to skills-based organization, and people have a view on I think they're very strong startups who works around that skill-based organization and have a view what are future skills needed. I
Yeah.
think that's sometimes clear. But having a clear view on the skills you have at the moment is much more difficult, because how are you gonna measure that? Mostly it's through a self-evaluation. You ask people how good are you at skill X, etc. And it's less based on external assessments. So it's sometimes easier to look at what the future skills are than like what do we have and how do we get there.
And is that the holy grail? Because I think the point that you make about the future skills, that's like building on a foundation that you don't actually have the solid foundation unless you know what you have
Yeah.
today. Is that the holy grail for organizations now with roles changing, that they do fully get their finger on the pulse of exactly the skills they have today, what's transferable, who can be upskilled, reskilled, to put everyone in the right position and
Uh,
continually keep that mobilized, because that's the world we're in now, isn't it? Nothing's static.
yeah.
Career pathways for 5, 10 years are just gone now. They said the
Yeah.
span of a skill has reduced from 2 years to 6 months. So is that where companies need to be, that they really understand the skills of today in order to predict the skills of tomorrow? And are you seeing any great examples in the world of who's nailing it?
So here I see a lot of difference between theory and practice. I still need to see companies who are successfully implementing the skills-based organization. And it's also because of the reason that you were saying. So you have the time you take to understand where you are and the time you understand to what is needed. By then, the world already changed. So there are a lot of obstacles to get it right. Yeah. So I don't think it's the holy grail. It's helpful. And I think we need to think about what can we do, but just a piece of the
Mm.
puzzle.
What does utopia look like, though, from a talent first organization, from your perspective? Like, if you could wave a magic wand for your customers and there's no limitation, what would that look like?
Excellent question. How would that look like? So I think the starting point is everyone in the organization is thriving. They're not only performing, they're thriving. They love their work, they are engaged, they come to work because they can use the skills, they can use the strengths. They also see them getting better and developing. And ideally, they work for a purpose. They do something good, which is profitable, but also good for the world. So that's for me the ideal organization.
And are there examples of that in the world?
I'm,
You don't have to name names.
no, I'm afraid we're humans, right, Vanessa? So
I know.
yeah, with their flows and their
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I don't see that. I do see companies who are capable of who kind of combine the profitability and the purpose.
Yeah.
So I see good examples of that. Of course, I see examples where engagement is high. Of course, I see examples where people thrive. Maybe it's very personal, but I do think it's easier in smaller organizations and startups than in big organization where politics kicks in and there's so much bureaucracy and they have to have bureaucracy and process in place, etc.
Mm.
So large organization, I think it's much more difficult to achieve than in kind of startup excitement. But that's a very personal lens, very personal.
Yeah, and I appreciate your perspective because I think it's really interesting. I've worked in the talent space for 2 decades now. Maybe we're seen as the underdog. It was an afterthought, the focus on talent, and I think it's becoming front and center because we come from different perspectives. But I guess I come from a intelligence lens of if we give the companies the intelligence, they make the right decision. You're coming from the talent, the people lens. So if we give the intelligence, the right people are in place, actually that utopia may exist. But I guess my question is, and this is a real sort of a crystal ball question, what do you think the future of the workplace looks like and the role that you will play from a consulting lens in the coming years?
Uh, how, how does it look like? So you want to look at from my profession as like an assessment expert? So I think we live in a very exciting time and at the same time at a very scary time. And I'm then thinking about the impact of AI in my business. Right. So in theory, again, we could easily replace me with all my experience and having assessed leaders all over the world. You can replace me by AI right now. AI can do the interview, AI can do role plays, AI can do business cases. No need for me. The question is then, of course, who is the better assessor? Is it, I mean, me or my colleagues in assessors, or is it an AI? Are they more biased, less biased? Do we train AI in reinforcing that bias? Yes or no? And what about the experience as a candidate? Oh, do you want to talk to me or do you want to talk to AI? Or I don't know. So that's why it's at the same time extremely exciting. And I'm looking, for example, at I met a company who are doing AI role plays or like AI coaching. And it's really amazing. It's really amazing. You talk it to an avatar, you do a role play, and they give you direct feedback on the spot. And it's really impressive. And you wonder, like, is this AI tool doing it better than I do? And you really wonder. So probably it's an answer, right? It's about how the humans and AI work together. How can me as an assessor bring that experience and have the human in the loop? That's important. Like I said, exciting and scary.
Mm. And a very honest answer. I wonder, will we be in a position where ultimately there's AI leaders, i.e., pure AI managing the agents, but that where we do have humans, even in a hybrid scenario, I think you mentioned a good point there of if the customer is human, the candidate's human, we need a human there somewhere, but
Yeah.
perhaps the role will be far greater capacity to serve far large number
Yeah.
of customers in the shorter term. Are you seeing a shift from the focus in assessments from hard skills to more the human skills and cognitive ability of people?
We should shift. That's my answer. Do we shift already? For me, not enough. I think we need to assess more for wisdom than for knowledge. Because at the end of the day, AI is the knowledge.
Good.
Not so. What we expect from human is judgment. It is creativity. It's dealing with the emotions. It's the wisdom from experience. So
Mm.
that's what we need more and less purely knowledge. And again, wisdom probably has also an intellectual part of it and a philosophical part, etc. But I do think we need to assess more for wisdom than for knowledge.
You're the first guest to use that term wisdom,
Yeah.
which is very wise. What is wisdom? It's a really important point because you said before we need to be careful that we don't build bias into the LLMs or the AI because there already is. I mean, something that I've looked at before in recruitment, and one of the inspirations for setting up Abodu was around this skills matching. How do we really eliminate or very much reduce the unconscious bias that we have? That's not our fault. It's just we're programmed. It's there. what can we do? So I think that wisdom is really, really interesting.
Mm.
When you look forward to roles getting to a point where they are hybrid, and you look at the
Yeah.
role that you play, which is the assessment, do you ever foresee you assessing AI, or will it just be assessing humans?
Probably validating AI outcomes, assessing AI. Yeah, I don't know. I cannot capture that in my mind, so I don't know. Now, if I can come back to this bias thing, and I think that's also important. So if you look at in assessment, you have bias, but you also have noise. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of noise. Basically, it's as an assessor, I'm gonna assess people, and I bring my mood with me. Also, if I'm talking now. It also works for Europe. If you're like, it's super hot, you have a heat wave, you don't have airco, and then you're gonna assess someone, it has a huge impact on my judgment, and not only in assessment. Apparently it's also huge in like judges, how they judge someone. So, or my favorite basketball team just won, so I'm very happy, I'm gonna rate a little bit better than I. So that can be eliminated with AI. Bias is a different story, but noise can be eliminated with AI. So
When
there
you
they
say
have a step
noise,
ahead.
do you mean someone's mood essentially as because of the
Yeah.
environmental impacts or
So it's a term that's coined by Kahneman, if you know Kahneman.
okay.
Thinking Slow, Fast, who
Mm.
wrote that book? Does that ring a bell? It's like a behavioralist. He wrote a book about noise. So that's, yeah, it's a mood and how external factors influence your mood. And if you're in a bad mood, then you're going to assess, or if you're a judge in a bad mood, and you're going to say, okay, this person, 2 years of prisons or 5 years of prison, it has a big
Huge
impact on
impact.
how we judge people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and even for the candidates, I think we used to do these, I think that it was the wrong phrase, but we would do a one day assessment center for early talent. And at the end of the day, there was a talent war room, wrong term to use.
Yeah.
But I remember being in a few of them, and there was one particular inside sales director, and you could tell if he was in a bad mood. And you
Yeah.
knew typically, maybe say there was 5 offers out of 12, 6 offers, you would have a result of just 2 offers
Yeah.
because other factors had influenced and swayed,
Mm.
and the level of candidates hadn't changed. Or then equally, the pressure on the candidates, if their nerves got to them, you would see them performing brilliantly the day before, and then in the assessment
Yeah.
center, they wouldn't. So, are you saying AI, even from the candidate's perspective, will know when noise, mood is impacting?
Yeah. AI is not going to be impacted by,
Interesting.
I don't think it's going to be impacted by the heat or by their favorite team losing or winning or whatever. So that the noise is eliminated for AI. So
That's
you could
brilliant.
argue AI on that dimension will do better than I do.
We have a closing tradition for every episode where I ask 2 questions and you can answer both or
Yeah.
just one. My first is there a skill that you had when you were younger that you use that you don't use anymore and you would like
Yeah.
to? And if so, why? And the second one is for any person out there at the moment who is finding themselves in a position that they're not working and they really would like to be, would you have any recommendations of what they could do to help them make stand out?
On the first one, a skill that I use less and less is writing skills. We used to write assessment reports. It was
Mhm.
almost like an R. And you kind of also you had a bit of proud in I'm writing this beautifully, and that will help
Mm.
hiring managers making decisions, but also works towards a candidate and thinking about how can I give that feedback so the candidate capture it, does something with it, can develop, etc. So that was really kind of something that we were really proud, like a strong report. And now you put everything in AI. You ask, can you give me an impactful executive summary for the candidate and focus on X, Y, Z? And then it comes out like probably better than I can write it because I'm not native English. So if I have to write reports in English, it's probably better. So writing is now AI generated almost. So that's a skill that totally disappeared. So all the everything automated. So writing is a skill that I don't use any, and it helps me a lot in my productivity, but it's also kind of a bit a pity somewhere. So second question is advice for people who are not working currently and they want to kind of stand out. I still believe in in deep expertise somewhere. They always say they have the T structure. You need to be like broad. For example, if you want to work in HR, you need to be broad and then an expertise. I still do believe that if you find something you're really passionate about and go deep, I think that's how you can be different from the rest. That's what I would do.
I
Absolutely.
agree. And as much as I know people are saying about AI being, you need to be a generalist because AI can do the niche, I think in this transitional period that we're in, that's how you set yourself apart. I want to say thank you so much for this. Has been brilliant because the way you've articulated how things are evolving in talent and assessment, and even the fact of that noise element, it plays a part in so many areas, which, it's one that I haven't really thought about before. And I also think as well, the role that you're in, you've clearly articulated that we're not quite at the point of assessing human skills. But if we could
Mm.
get to that, as you said, that's kind of the game changer for
Yeah.
organizations. So I
Yeah.
just want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank
It's
you,
really
Ines. It
enjoyed.
was a pleasure. It was a very spontaneous conversation.
It really
Yeah.
was. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you.